Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and howdy. I'm Dr. David Phillips, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about means, motive, and opportunity. Or, if you prefer, motive, means, and opportunity. Now, in U.S. criminal law, motive, means, and opportunity is a popular cultural summation of the three aspects of a crime that must be established before guilt can be determined in a criminal proceeding. Essentially, if you're trying to solve a mystery, either a mystery story and an interactive drama or a live action role-playing game, or in real life, you need to show motive, means, and opportunity. Now, respectively, motive, means, and opportunity refers to the ability of a defendant to commit a crime. That would be means or ability. The reason the defendant felt the need to commit a crime, or the motive. Those of you in my acting classes know about motivation. What's my motivation? Why do I do that? Well, because the director said go over there. No, it's because you have a reason. So what's the reason for the crime, or for this person, the suspect, to commit that crime? And of course, whether or not the defendant or suspect had the chance to commit the crime. That is the opportunity. Motive, means, and opportunity. Now, opportunity is most often disproved by alibi, which can prove that the accused was not able to commit a crime because he or she did not have the correct set of circumstances to commit the crime as it occurred. That is, they were off doing something else, and usually an alibi requires a witness, someone to testify, yeah, I was with him. So if you're asked by the police, where were you last night at 8 o'clock? And you say, I was with my buddies drinking and whoring and doing whatever we do when I'm with my buddies. Most likely playing a card game or a role-playing game, or just sitting around talking about movies. But if your life is exciting, then drinking and whoring and gambling and why, officer, I couldn't possibly have committed that crime. I was in another part of crime with my buddies stealing things or doing something else. Now, if your buddies can then attest that you were with them, then you're cool. But if an officer says, where were you last night between the hours of 9 and 11? And you say, why, officer, I was home alone watching TV. They're going to ask you, what did you watch? What was on? And if you can't describe the plot of the stupid-ass show that you claim to be watching, you're going to have problems. Of course, the most common answer for a non-alibi might be, why, officer, I couldn't have done that. I was home alone in bed, sleeping. Which is absolutely unverifiable. So let's hope that the police have other evidence that clears you. Otherwise, you might be screwed on this one. Okay, so motive, means, and opportunity. Now, motive isn't actually an element in many crimes, but proving motive can make it easier to convince a jury that the person did the crime. That they had a reason to do it, and common motives that might pop up for folks might be money. Would the suspect stand to gain in inheritance from a victim? How else would the suspect benefit financially from the death of a victim? Are they business rivals? Is the suspect being blackmailed? That sort of thing. Love. Love's a big one, the big L word. Lost love is a powerful motive. Did the victim disappoint the suspect in matters of love? Is there an affair going on? That's a biggie. Revenge is a very common motive. What was the victim? Has the victim done harm to upset the suspect or his or her loved ones? Perhaps the victim is him or herself guilty of a previous crime, or they have thwarted the suspect on matters of love or money and all sorts of that sort of stuff. So, motive isn't required in many cases because there are motiveless crimes, but it's a biggie. It really helps convince a jury. Now, if you're playing a role-playing game or if you're reading a novel, motive probably ties in really strongly because honestly, it's worth knowing. It really is. All right, so you need to establish in a game or in fiction or in drama and often in real life, establishing the presence of these three elements is not in and of itself sufficient to convict beyond a reasonable doubt, but it certainly helps. The evidence must prove that an opportunity presented was indeed taken by the accused and for the crime with which he or she is being charged. For example, consider a ruling in a case of a suspect accused of robbery and assault. Let me read for you now. Evidence of motive means opportunity and consciousness of guilt are not enough to establish guilt. Compare Commonwealth versus Mandalay, 403 Mass, 93-98, 1988. Evidence of motive means unexplained possession of property and consciousness of guilt, not enough to establish robbery. On this record, the evidence is insufficient to permit a rational jury to find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant was the victim's assailant. Nothing in the record sufficiently links the defendant to the crime to permit the conclusion beyond a reasonable doubt that he was the perpetrator. Now, that phrase I keep using, beyond a reasonable doubt, that is very, very, very important in American jurists. So in American law, we find people guilty of a crime and it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. And so if you can introduce reasonable doubt, not unreasonable doubt, not aliens took me away, it couldn't possibly have been me, it was monkey men from outer space, that's not really going to be enough. That's just crazy talk. Even though the monkey men, commanded by their horse leaders, really did do it, a reasonable jury is not going to say, yeah, that makes sense. I now doubt that this guy who was found in the office over the dead body with his hand in the safe taking money was the criminal. I think maybe the monkey man is just enough that maybe he didn't do it. And he was actually putting it all back as he said, even though his pockets were full. That's not reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt is a normal thinking person. Theoretically, the reason we have a jury of our peers is to show that a normal thinking person. Now, of course, you've all seen, not crime shows, because crime shows, the jury usually are pretty reasonable thinking people, but you've seen reality news programs that do show that some jurists are dumbasses. That's a technical term for those of you unfamiliar with the legal terminology. Some humans are just idiots. They're like Congress in that way. All right. Now, contrary to popular depictions in fictional media, a court can't convict merely on Motive, means, and opportunity. It really does have to have much more. It must provide convincing evidence and opportunity actually acted upon by the defendant charged. Otherwise, it's circumstantial, and that's really not enough. For example, a criminal shot someone with a handgun and took his or her money when the victim was in an isolated, secluded area at night. The means would be the handgun. Okay, that's the means to do it. All right, the motive is financial. That's the money side of things. All right, it's a robbery. Okay, and the money that they stole. All right, now the opportunity, the fact that it would be unlikely someone else would witness or stop them. Okay, that's opportunity, and so they need alibi. Otherwise, they can't defeat that. However, for the majority of crimes, means, opportunity are the easiest to prove. Okay, however, for some offenses, such as rape or serial murder or killing, motive can be very hard to define for why it happened. And you know that sometimes such things get all mucky. Right now, for my students at the university who are participating in interactive drama, there are often, in interactive dramas, there are often mystery components. Not always murder mystery, although that seems to be the #1 preoccupation with interactive drama writers, but there may be other types of mystery and crimes involved. And so you do want to use your critical thinking, and you want to look forward to motive, means, opportunity. And when you get to opportunity, you also want to check people's alibi. All right? And so put your sleuthing hats on and see what you get going there. But all said and done, that's motive, means, and opportunity. Just a quick mini lecture or a mini talk, point of view, about those 3 aspects of mystery. All right? And so this has been Dr. Brian David Phillips on motive, means, and opportunity. Live, trans, and prosper. Bye-bye.